Okay, I've got 2, maybe 1 minute to do something quick and easy. So, here are the host meetings, and inside of the host meetings I embed culture for care. And one of those aspects of it is the open space where hotspots are identified, and given voice to connect with the individuals who have the hotspots with each other in group process that allow maybe others to identify what the hotspots are in themselves. This takes no more than 15 minutes, and it can be quicker than that. And anything else that needs to happen around those hotspots is agreed to that the individuals who are hot meet outside in a separate group to support the hotspots in finding their way back to heart, back to the collective intelligence and genius, because the hotspots, when they're activated in the minds of the individuals, create the judgments and the judgment bugs. And this is where we all co-create in this system to allow the imaginal cells to grow. So this is like one nucleus and one aspect of what Culture for Care brings in regards to the mud rooms. So I was speaking about the mud rooms, and I realized I have a whole nother camera that is actually ready. So this is the DNA. So here is the DNA component in group process that works with the hotspots. The DNA that allows this generative process to come in to use conflict in an empowered way that reconnects us to heart, and have separate containers around how to cultivate that. So the old system, which lives in the hotspots, becomes debugged over time. And it does take time, folks. It does. So here is a living example. And what a living example is, what this is someone at the table invites a living example to step into the open space. And in that living example of systems understanding, we get to see how we affect each other and model and role model over time the deeper inner terrains that exist in the collective psyche. So the hotspots are access points to put into safe containers, which over here is the mud room. And the mud room unpacks into best practices of all social models that deal with trauma. PTSD is the hot word these days, post-traumatic stress, which some of us are really aware of in how we're activated, and some are still learning, because we're all operating in some level in post-traumatic stress out of what is happening to planet Earth. However, when we feel safe in a space to work on these conflicts that allow those aspects to be listened to and reintegrated into the social DNA. So there's a whole system around moving it out and then moving it back in to the circles and the table talk, and how we cultivate healthy relational table talk. But back to my point, because having unlimited amount of time means I ramble just a little bit more. I do. So, a recap, and then living example. So what I mean by a living example is that there's somebody in the space in which I have a hotspot with, and I invite that conversation to be alive in the collective, and that we role model it as a living example. The piece around our DNA is always building safety for the hotspots. All hotspots deserve respect, because they're all rooted in post-traumatic stress, and all of that energetic of post-traumatic stress is part of our primal nature that helps us to heal. However, if that primal nature of the hotspots creates defense and reactivity that undermines our capacity to create function because it blocks us. It's kind of like the poison in the system that makes us shut down to each other and not see each other and have defenses and react to one another. So this environment truly allows for the conversations of heat to come out in a healthy way. And the living example is that we invite each other to role model it. Some of us, like myself, very much wanting the opportunity to share the wisdom of right relationship around C, somatic embodiment education. And somatic C is embedded in culture for care. So culture for care supports the mudroom with all of its different models in being integrated into the DNA of all social constructs that allow for the understanding of how to heal so that we can get beyond the chaos that is caused in the energetics by reactivity, blinding us to our capacity to see, because our circuits get all jumbled and cross-wired. But it's easy if we say yes. But it's easy if we say yes and learn to hold all of our stuff in healthy containers. And that's yet another conversation with my doodle bug.